gentlemen, welcome to another episode of What's Next podcast. I'm your host, Maitland. I'm joined by the one and only Jeremy Delk, coming on What's Next podcast, talk a little about his journey and Lex Exotics and many more. Jeremy, man, welcome to What's Next. It's a pleasure having you on. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to have a conversation with you. Of
course, man. It's just an amazing setup. I remember walking in and I'm just astounded by just the look, and it's just amazing, man. Let's talk about your journey, man. Where are you from? How did you get to Lexington, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so not a short story. A lot of twists and turns, but I grew up in Bardstown, Kentucky, about an hour away from here. It's the bourbon capital of the world. And then went to school up in Rhode Island. My first life was on Wall Street, so I was in Boston and New York, and then moved back to Kentucky about 10 years ago.
So small town guy to a big city life, Boston, New York. Cool, man. It's a tough transition, I'll tell you that much. Tell me about Lex Exotics in general. What is Lex Exotics? What are you trying to do with Lex Exotics, and what's its purpose?
Yeah, so Lex Exotics is very much a passion project, right? So I don't know how lucrative this is going to be for an actual quote-unquote business. Came out of necessity. I ran out of garage space at the house, right? And these things around cars, when you kind of go through the coolest part about this community of car owners and enthusiasts in Lexington, it's just everyone is so down to earth, right? And I really wanted to kind of, highlight that because it's all about being inclusive and kind of going through. I know when I was a little kid, I dreamed about owning one of these cars, not much less, multiple of them, right?
That's a dream.
And I think that's the cool piece that, whether it's my collection or even guys in town that got a lot more cars than me, everyone's just so chill and kind of going through. Like when we had an event here probably about a month and a half ago, we had about $12 million worth of cars.
That's insane.
And we've got several individual $1 million cars, from Ford GTs to Ferrari SF90s. They were all unlocked. You got my son including, who's probably the ringleader, but 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids are able to go around and play, touch, feel, not behind some velvet rope that kind of going through. So I think that's the cool piece around it, and just to kind of build a community around it that's positivity, and that's the piece. So that's the idea of it. We built it into a really cool space. It's very much a Miami kind of feel, like there's an MPH, so I love Miami, so we kind of bring a little bit of that
Miami
here. I can't bring the beach up here, but we try, but it's a cool vibe, and we wanted to have something that's definitely for car people, but not even for car people, right? We got poker tables here. The guys are putting up a brand new racing simulator that we just upgraded, golf simulator, so it's just about a cool, chill hangout spot for like-minded people. So that's the idea. And we had different membership tiers, from being able to drive some of the cars, which are nearly sold out, but just a social membership to kind of be able to come up here and chill, watch games, or play cards or whatever.
I see you're deep into the social community of things, and there's so many other places you could put, I guess, this display and this business. Louisville, Cincinnati. Why Lexington?
Well, I live here, so it's easier. Selfishly, it's self-serving, right?
I got you.
I live here. This is, I live in Nicholasville, office in Lexington, and this is our community and our home.
It works for you. Yeah, for sure. So talk about the poker tables. Talk about some of the, I guess you guys. I know you guys have a lot of different policies and stuff like the different memberships. Talk a little bit about the memberships here.
So I said most of the so we had was a platinum and diamond membership. That were allowing, I think they were $1,500 a month, that were allowing you access to actually drive some of these cars. The diamonds have been sold out for a while. We're nearly sold out of the gold, of the platinum, and that was like $500 a month, or $1,000 a month. The most popular one now is really, there's two. There's a storage side of it. So. This is probably a $600,000 build out, just in all the lights, all the stuff. It's kind of cool. So the idea came out. There was actually a spot in town that was going to be built that you could store. It had a small little loft, probably a third of the size of this loft, and they wanted $4,000 a month to store really one car. And I was going to buy one, but they wouldn't sell it. And I'm like, there's got to be a market for this, right? So that's what I built. It's a very overpriced man cave. But if you've got more than one car, or if you only got one car that you carry in your daily, you could store it here amongst it. Because I look at, just like this is a David Yarrow here. I'm a big art guy. These cars are like art too, right? So how cool would it be to have your own kind of man cave where you get your own garage, your own key, and store your car here to bring and hang out, and then you can do that for $400 a month. So you can't get a self-storage unit for that, much less to be around all this.
It's more than just like a self-storage unit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that way you can keep your car. It's all climate controlled. We got video surveillance everywhere, alarms. So that's a great opportunity. And then it's not much different than the storage businesses that already exist, just on much higher end. And then the other piece is the social, right? Just it's $250 a month. You get a guest with that. So if you even split it with a buddy, it's $125 a month.
That's cool.
And there's free snacks, drinks,
like
cocktails, whatever you want.
It's a hangout.
All free. So it's a different vibe. You got a golf simulator, so it costs you less, for 1 month. If you use the golf simulator one time and has free drinks, it's cheaper than going to like Parlay 6 or whatever over at the mall.
Place. Yeah, for sure. I love that, man. Yeah. Talk about like the cars you have in fleet and then the supplies you have in fleet. Like walk me through. I kind of take control. You take control.
Yeah. So obviously new poker table. We're just announced this on social the other day. So we're having a members only monthly game. So nothing high stakes, but just more have a casual kind of have a fun time, socialize, joke, play around, win a little bit of money, and then we've got like a tournament style, and I've done this in my private house for a while. It's like a tournament style where you take 10% of the pot as like a carryover, right? So if you get in first place one week, second place next week, you get points. So it kind of keeps you kind of adds up, and at the end of the year, we always do it around Christmas time. So at the end of the year, whoever's the winner in the points, before Christmas, they get like that hold back of that 10%. So they can get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So it helps out for the Christmas bonus for everybody. Exactly. And then we've got 2 chill areas. This is one of 2 that we've got. So couch, got a V12 Mercedes engine here that we converted to a cool coffee table. 2 85-inch TVs, one up here, one downstairs. And then just seating for 12 from a bar, right? Kind of going through and looking out over some of the cars. As I was telling you before, the McLaren's at my house. I drove it this past weekend, and just got some work being done. But it came out cool.
It's definitely
a full bar, full kitchen.
I could see the social setting, like
and a lot of things so it's members only as well. So like we have a lot of members that are taking it up for like private events too. Say it's your birthday and you want to go through, you want to break your house. Come in here, you have access to it. You have to pay like a $250 cleaning fee or something, whatever. But come out, order pizzas, whatever. So you can't get a space like this, right? I think that's the kind of component, and we can be. Liberal on who we want as members. Everyone's got to be cool. If you're fucking a dick, man, you're out. Like, it's just not cool, right? We want everyone to be like-minded, help each other. I think there's a lot of networking that goes along here, and it's been fun.
I gotta ask you, man, where did you get this idea from?
So, I mean, there's several of my buddies in town that have these private garages already. I like to think it's not to this scale. I think I did a pretty good job, but they have these private garages, and it's cool. And I kept, when I was building my new house, I kept some of my cars at some of my buddies' garages and stuff, and it's cool. It's a great hangout spot, because especially just recognizing and liking the cars. But sometimes you felt like, man, even though they're not gonna charge me or whatever, it's your friend that's doing it for you. Like you're almost like taking advantage of them, and like I don't know if I'd pop over there to their garage and hang out if I wasn't with them. So out of necessity, like hey, for my own cars and kind of some fleet, but hey, why not build something that's more than just for myself, right? That you can give access to people that either have these cars or want to have these cars, right? And kind of hang out. That's the idea.
That's awesome, man. I love that. You're a strong guy that you think community is important to you.
Absolutely.
I love that. Let's go downstairs, man.
Sure.
Talk to me about the cars you got in fleet. We're looking at some of them right now. I know you said the McLaren's back at your house right now.
In McLaren's at my house. We got a 64 Shelby Cobra, backdraft Cobra. That's the newest edition, indigo blue, really cool. And that's one that we actually getting some work done on the tail end of it. So those are the 2 that are out. Those are 2, both blue for whatever reason. These are all the blacked out and grayed.
Blacked out today.
So this was the first one. Actually, the first one, like first kind of supercar that I ever got was this one.
Ferrari
458 Italia. So last naturally aspirated engine, which is pretty cool. And I took my son. Lamborghini had a new opening of the showroom, 60th anniversary up in Columbus last weekend or 2 weekends ago.
Last weekend.
And and I got an invite up there, and I took my son and a couple of his buddies up there, and they had a new 2022 Lamborghini STO, baby blue. My son's just like, buy it, Dad, buy it. I don't need another car. And I was like, you know what, I've had this car for so long. This car is actually appreciated in value. So I've owned it for a bunch of years, drove it, love it, but like, you know, I've actually made money on it. So like, maybe I just parlay that into it. So I was thinking about doing it, and then came home, took it out, and about 60 seconds, I'm like, fuck that, man, I'm not getting rid of it. It's just, I love it so much. It's just got that sound, it's a really sick color combo.
So this is your favorite? This is your favorite?
Man, they're all my favorite. They're all like, it's like how you have a favorite kid, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, different, it's just different.
Just different.
And you forget about it, and like, yeah, that's the piece. But yeah, it's a beautiful car, and I think it's awesome. So that's the first one I bought. This one's probably the most special to me. This is a 1967 fastback Mustang. So it's signed by Carroll Shelby. Cool. So if you've seen the movie like Gone in 60 Seconds, this was Eleanor, if you remember. So this was a California car. Actually, the original glass here.
Wow, yeah.
I'm locked on the other side. You can peek in here. You can see Carroll Shelby from the movie.
There it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
Had signed the car. So we found this car in Ohio in a barn, and did a 3-year restoration on it. So I found this car with my son. So this is probably the most sentimental car to me.
Means something more, right?
Yeah. And this is everyone asked me like, yo, that lift kit is sick, bro. Like fucking, I'm like, they didn't put a lift kit on it, man. Like this is a Mercedes G squared. It's called a G squared. G squared. So there's about 400 of them in the world. Half of them are in the Middle East, and the other half are here. So this was a professional hockey player up in Minnesota, and it's just mean, right? I mean,
it's mean.
Flared out, carbon fiber, and you get in this thing, and you're like, you pull up to like a semi truck, and like you're like at eye level. Yeah. You see like a big Ford F-150, whatever. You're looking down on him. No, you're looking down on him like he's in a Corolla. Yeah. It's a beast.
I was gonna say, the beast is the word. I heard you started up. And
it's mean. Yeah, it's mean. Yeah, but it's cool.
That's cool. Awesome, man. I love to see it, man. This is cool for me because I only can dream of being inside of these cars or looking at these cars in person. You know, you see them on Instagram, you see them on social media. To actually be looking at them, man, this is awesome for me.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. That's part of what it is. I mean, like we're doing that's like what's next. Like we've got this 4th of July thing that my buddy John Stewart from Middle Ground Capital, great guy. He's putting on. He's really kind of sponsoring the entire thing. And it's there's nothing really going on in Lexington in July 4th, right?
There
so hopefully it's the first annual of there'll be some free ice cream for kids, maybe Cranky Boom or whatever, but just to kind of get the community out there and get access to it. It's gonna be cool. And again, it's all free to the public, and that's what it is. Like, Jamie Wexler is a friend of mine, and there's another Cars and Coffee as well. So I don't want to be no favoritism or disparagement. There's 2 Cars and Coffee in Lexington, but like one in like over by the Southland Christian Church on Richmond Road. I mean, they get thousands of cars on good weekends sometimes, and there's just kids out there. It's just really cool. So you're looking at rare $1 million Ford GTs to just some, who got a Mustang or whatever. I mean, cars are cars. But seeing all sides of it. There's like all just, it's I talk to that community. That's the biggest piece.
Yeah, community is the word, man. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Jeremy Delk coming on What's Next podcast. We're going to talk a little bit more about his journey when we get back after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with my man Jeremy Delk on What's Next podcast, man. We had an amazing introduction to the episode. You showed us, what you have here at Lex Exotics, man, and I'm amazed so far. But let's get into the conversation, man. Father's Day just happened, man. Mm-hmm. Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Father of how many? 3, 2?
2.
How was your Father's Day?
Working on more, hopefully, but yeah. Father's Day was great, man. We went up to my wife's family up in Ohio and had some good weather, some good food, good pool time, and yeah, it's nice.
Get to spend some time with the kids, and to lay a little bit away from work, focus on family time. That's awesome, man. I guess like coming from you, man, my father means so much to me, and he's part of the reasons why I'm here today. But in your hand, your father passed at a young age, right? How did you cope with that? What have you learned from losing such someone that means so much to you?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I coped with it for a while. I think you hindsight and a lot of growth and reflection. But I think fast forward, I think it's largely shaped a lot of who I am. And you can either, and this is life, right? I'm not special. We've all had some sort of loss or trauma or failure in life, and I'm really a big proponent of like either these events will either define you or you can define them, right? And I think that's the piece. It's very easy to feel sorry for yourself and be a victim. Yeah. But you're not promised tomorrow, so I really try to embrace that piece of it. And then work through it. There was a long time in my life where I don't think I know I didn't really kind of go through and do the grieving and kind of really do that work. Yeah, and that shit fucking just builds up, man. You can't you can only push something down for so long. And then it so really kind of looking back, I don't think people should really resonate with past and dwell on it. But you got to respect it, right? You got to know where you come from and you're understand your why and your part of your journey, because that's really who shapes what you are, right? We're all products of our environment.
I love that you say that, because like I'm someone, if I deal with anything that's disappointing or anything like that, I kind of just brush it aside, ignore it. Mm-hmm. Or if something that that's terrible that happened to me, I do the same thing. But you're here saying that, hey, like it's okay to meet up with that and just be like, hey, this happened, and accept it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, embrace it, and then there's if it's a failure or if it's something. I mean, some things you can't understand, right? Why you lose a parent. It's like you can't really fathom and understand that, so don't bother trying to work that out. But on the same component, like, all right, what's to learn from it? How do I go through? And sometimes there's not an answer, and that's get okay with not having an answer, right? But just be able to move on and embrace it, and not really let it define what you do from that perspective.
So I want to talk a little bit about you and your background. Grew up in Kentucky, small town, and then you kind of moved all over the place. Boston, New York. Mm-hmm. Talk about what that has taught you. You're going from a small town to a big city guy. I'm a prime example of that. So I kind of
You're in Florida. Where were you?
So I was in Daytona Beach, Florida. I grew up in New York, Long Island, New York. So I'm coming from
where in Long Island?
Hempstead.
All right.
Hempstead?
So South Shore. Yeah. South. Yeah.
That's me. So I'm coming from Long Island. I'm going to Daytona Beach. Similar in ways, but not New York. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm here in Lexington, Kentucky. So, I guess, my question is for you, what have you learned, the lessons you learned from, going from small town to big city? That's a big jump. A lot of people, are afraid to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always wanted to go into a bigger city. So I think that was always, I loved Bardstown and still do. I mean, it's a great little town. I really love Lexington, but I always had that yearning to kind of want to see more. I had this big fish, small pond mentality. Mm-hmm. So I love New York, and I mean, partial to New York. Boston's a great town too. So to answer your question, what did I learn? I learned, and this is probably a summation for life and business together, right? I mean, it's just people, right? People are people. So I remember my mom, so I lived in Chelsea, Union Square. It's actually closer to Union Square. It was technically Chelsea though, 16th and 6th Avenue. Okay. And my mom's from Bardstown. She's like, I'm not fucking coming up there. I flew up here for Mother's Day. I'm like, just spend a week with me, right? And live, because most people go to New York, go to Times Square, which you couldn't catch me dead in, right? Or you're not going into the city. Maybe you go see the Rock Center, see the tree, maybe. But that's it. But you're not going and doing that crap. That's not New York, right?
Man, I was
New York,
just up there. Yeah. I didn't even go to the city.
No, I mean, you got to pull me there. You can't really do that. But my mom staying with me for that week, she saw that really all New York City is, or even the boroughs, wherever, all New York City is, like Manhattan, the island of Manhattan, is just 100 Lexingtons or 100 Bardstowns, right? Because on my block, right, it's the same deli guy, same dry cleaner, same coffee shop, it's just right in a 2-block radius, right? The cool part is you can pop from town to town and fucking, a quick quick cab ride or a subway ride. So her experience in New York that way really opened her up her eyes to see what it is. Because New Yorkers get a bad rap sometimes. Is some of the best people I've ever met in my world are from New York City and Dubai, right? I mean, they both people, especially in a sheltered part of Kentucky where we live, sometimes we have those people and they're different. I mean, they just have an idea of where they want to go and get something done. But some of the nicest people you ever kind of go, but they're just, they're motivated, they're moving, they got energy, they kind of keep going. But what I've told you is that, to answer your question, what I've learned is that people are the same, right? We're all humans. We all have the same dreams, desires, and whatever. different socio-economic backgrounds, but at the core, people are mostly good, right? And are genuine, kind of, we all have our dreams and goals, but if you can start to relate and not build up or build down, because I've seen both ways, right? Some people build up these people who you wouldn't want to fucking hang out with, but on the same time, they also build down people that you can learn so many lessons from, the person that's helping, clean up at the restaurant beside, or busting tables and whatever. So I've learned, to really try to be always conscious of your surroundings and know who you are. And we talk about being authentic a little bit. I'm very authentic. I curse, so for the kids listening, I curse, but that's me. That's living in New York probably too long. But I don't do it just to say fuck, and I don't do it just to do it. But that's how I kind of vocalize. But if you know me, like I'm, got a big heart. We try to help charities. We try to do the right thing, but I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for ourselves, and hopefully, as somewhat of an example, besides the cussing for my kids.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, man. I hate to put you on the spot, man, but New York versus Lexington, which one you're going with? Which one do you like better?
Well, it's just different, right? We're talking pasta. Look, I love Jeff Ruby, so he's a good friend, and so I'm a big supporter down there.
Yeah,
but so steaks are, the steaks, Lexington will actually give it a run for its money. But I love Lexington, man. It's a great, it's a great town. I just had a buddy and his wife and kids right the last day of Keeneland. We went to the races and stuff. And he's like, what am I doing with my life, right? We live on a golf course, our taxes are, way less than what they're paying. Yeah. We went to Ruby's, we went to Keeneland, we went to Seahorse.
That's cool.
All these things that are right here from a cost of living standpoint, quality of life, you get the Four Seasons, it's phenomenal. Yeah. But New York's an hour and 20 minutes away too. So you get the itch, you're up there, right? I'm up there next weekend, right? So it's easy to go.
Cool, man. You visiting the city?
Yeah, we
awesome.
are. Yeah.
Awesome, man. That sounds like fun. I want to touch a little bit about the entrepreneurship side of things. You're one of the biggest entrepreneurs, up and coming entrepreneurs in Lexington, but you have many businesses that a lot of people don't know about. Talk about some of the businesses that you own.
I'm a small town guy. I've started after my career on Wall Street. I left at a young age, even though I was pretty successful financially. I resigned at 22. I got my job at 19. It's the youngest licensed trader at Fidelity in history.
Young, yeah.
And but I left because I just didn't have that. I'm a creative person. Like this piece, this business, I don't know how much money it makes. And truly, I'm less excited about it now that it's done. But building this thing, and so now I've already got the next project I'm looking at. We've got a hotel project we're working on in the islands. We've got some stuff here that we're working on from a real estate perspective. Out front, we're doing some commercial development. So I love the creative piece, and then after it's I use up all my energy and my emotion during that piece. Yeah. And then it's like once you have it, then it's like. It's on to the next one. Yeah, it's on the next. And that's just for me. Again, the money piece, you need to have some licks, and you need to get lucky and have a couple exits. So all those are fun, are part of it. But for me, the fun and the drive is the creation, right? I think that's what I got out. So we've done everything from healthcare to real estate development to e-com. Digital media. We've got a video media service. So we've done a bunch of stuff. And it's just because I like learning, right? It really is, and that's part of it, right? My son, I try to set a good example from working, and I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, and like my son might put him down, read him a story, like he sees me on my laptop going to bed, like he knows there's no one telling me I got to work, right? I don't have a boss, I don't have someone, but I'm doing it, partly because you want to provide support and support your family and have these great experiences. But it really, for me, is just the love of it. I really like the process. And if I don't like it, I won't fucking do it, right? So that's the piece. So I'll never probably stop. But that's what drives me. And I think there's a lot of truth to be in that everyone says, oh yeah, just do what you love and all that. that's sometimes you don't have that luxury, right? But keep the passion, right? Even if you're working a job and you can't make it on your own, or you don't want to start YouTube yet, or whatever it is that you're doing, still have that passion that's driving, and don't die. That's why I left Fidelity. Great firm, obviously multinational, but I saw people that are 20, 30 years my senior making more money than me, but doing the same shit. Like I feel like corporate America and that world is where you go to die. Like a creative person, you go and just lose your soul a little bit, and that's okay, because being an entrepreneur is a fucking dumb idea too. Don't get me wrong, right? It's a lonely, painstaking process that, fuck this glamorous, all these people that pose on Instagram, like this, that's all, okay. It's a flex. It's a flex. It's a flex, but that's not why you do it, right? You do it because you have the passion for it, or you love to do it, and you have this creative, because it's a lonely process, right? I'm an overnight success, 20 years in the making, right? I mean, you have to go through that piece of it, I think. But just find whatever that passion is. And if that passion is, doing photography on the side, not making money, great. Like you're doing a podcast right now. You're not actually, how are you monetizing it? You're not worried about that. That's the fucking way to do it. As opposed to be like, yo, let me back into 10,000 subs, get this stuff. If you do that, you will fail. Yeah. But the way you're doing it is the right way. Like, hey, I want to give a voice, I want to add value, share a message. If you can do that, that's what you feel. You got a day job, you have to have that piece. We all have light bills to pay, and we all have those things. Exactly. But if you can really just kind of hone in on what it is that drives you and what your why is, and it ain't fucking money, I can tell you. I've tried to buy my way to happiness many times. You can't fucking do it.
I've seen that all the time. It's like, even the people who have the most money, they always talk about, hey, I'm still not happy. Like I could have the money, I could have the women, I could have the fame, I'm still not happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think happiness starts within, and like it's not like cliche, I mean, but you have to be happy with yourself first. And if you're not there, you're not going to be happy. It's not the car, the watch, the boat. It's not those things. Those make life fun. They make cool experiences and save time. There's a lot of benefits to those things, but that isn't what it is about, nor should it be about.
Exactly, man. You talked about. I remember you stating about a little bit earlier in your response. You talked about like your. So many projects that you like to take on, man. How do you balance and juggle that? It's just, how do you do that, I guess?
Just whatever's burning quicker, right? I mean, whatever the biggest fire is. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in a work-life balance. Okay. I think, that's not real, right? I mean, I think it's your generation, not my generation, right? Of like work-life balance, but work for me is fun, so I like that piece of it, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
But like, I do my best work between like 10 o'clock at night and 2 a.m., right? Kids are asleep. If I go to the office, it's fucking worthless. Like me being in the office, I get like an hour. Like I'm more productive in an hour not in the office than 8 in the office, because everyone's peeking their head in. JD, what's this? And they'll kind of you're providing access to it.
Exactly.
I'm able to have dinner with the kids, with the wife. Everyone's like happy. You put that time in. Now you got no distractions, knock it out, and kind of go from there. So that's for me. Some people like I'm a night guy, right? Some people are bed at 7, 8 o'clock and they're up at 4 a.m. for that same reason. So whatever your routine is, there's no trick routine. It's whatever works for you. But yeah, I don't balance. I mean, I balance what I think is important to me at the time, right? From a work perspective, family is the most important, but from a work and project piece, it's usually the new shiny thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's what I've done for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I'm staying up 10, 11, less distractions, like you said. Mm-hmm. I'm a night owl. I can't do it in the morning. I just can't. But I love that you said, work-life balance is not necessarily, it's not a thing, because, if you love what you do, it's not work, yeah. It's not really work, what I'm saying? So I want to talk a little bit about like your success in entrepreneurship. What are the key qualities that a entrepreneurship must have, I guess, to be successful?
I think it's the opposite of success. It's failure, right? I mean, I think it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I think it's changing your mentality and your perspective on what success or failure looks like, right? I think that's the biggest piece, and accepting is part of the journey, right? I mean, I wrote a book without a plan, and it's but the subtitle was a memoir of unbound action and found my way to success. So I really lean into those pieces because, whether it's losing my dad, which isn't there's a failure, but like it was an event that obviously shaped who I am, or blowing up $2 million, or a lot of I've had some successes, but I've had some massive failures too, and that's what they judge you by. It's fucking easy to hit a lick, man.
And
it's how they judge you on and who you are. That's the shape of a person, like who you are in that tough period, and where you kind of come out of that, right? And it's that perseverance to kind of keep moving forward. that makes all the difference.
I love the way you said that, but the thing that I want to talk a little bit more about is the failure aspect of things. Your notion that you go by is that failure is not a bad thing, right? So how do we cope with that when we're grown into a society where failure is a bad thing? Like you're going into school, you fail, people might, they look at you a certain way if you fail. You know what I'm saying? How do we balance that? How do we cope with that?
Look, I mean, I think you're right. That's where a lot of it comes from, right? Whether that's pass fail in school, young age. I think that's at like my son's school. I remember one of the things, like when we were looking at different places to send him, and my daughter goes there now, who I think so highly of, and my son struggles with dyslexia, and I just can't say enough good things about the program here in Lexington, one of the top, two schools, top one or two schools in the country. And it's been 6 years since we looked at enrollment, but it was talking about we teach courage. And we believe that learning happens at failure, right? That's not exactly what it said, but that was for me like that aha moment of like, besides seeing the product, these 8th graders that are walking around touring that were just so articulate and looking in your eye and shaking hands. Beside that, was the right approach for me. Like not like, well, here's your A's, here are your B's, like just on that piece. You have that, and that's the world that we live in. So you have to have that component, but encouraging the curiosity and encouraging failure, I think. If it's not done at school, it's your job to do it at home, right? And I think that's a piece of it, And also just I try treat your kids like they're small humans, man. Like let them know like life isn't hard, life isn't also fair, right? But okay, so what? Right? I blew up $2 million in 4 days at 19. It fucking sucked. Don't do that.
Exactly.
Just pro tip.
You learn though.
But like in the moment, it's the fucking worst thing ever. I'm a failure. But you very quickly realize, like, cool. When I feel bad for myself, is that fixing my situation?
No.
Right? Is it going to pay my mortgage next month? No. So the quicker that it fucking sucks. You feel bad about it, whatever. But then, great. Get on to kind of moving past it and learning, like, okay, triage and understand what happened. I think that's it. So. But that's for yourself. And then the other piece too, like, so many people I talk to, like I do a lot of business coaching and entrepreneurs and stuff, and they always have the best idea and they don't ever get started. It's this feel of failure, not actually themselves, but it's because what are you gonna think about me, right?
It's always what other people think.
Yeah, and like the sugar's like, no one fucking cares about you. They don't. Maybe your mom does, but no one else cares about you, right? They care about yourself. Yeah. Right? And I think that's so hard that we have this, oh my God, they don't fucking care. You're going to be in an event that, oh yeah, that happened and then done. Right? Like that's it. And the life cycle, if you go through, but that's why we're so petrified. Oh my God, what happens if it doesn't work? Well, fuck it doesn't work. Yeah. Like me, don't like me. What fucking dude, just like, it
doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got, and the quicker, and it's harder to kind of get there, but that's what you figure out. Like just worry about what you want to do. Are you happy? Is your family happy? You being a good person, and yeah.
Have you ever dealt with that throughout your journey? Like, I guess, like being afraid to start something up. Like I don't know. Like, have you experienced that in your past?
No, it's too dumb. I think, right? I mean, I think I think I didn't know enough to know better, right? Yeah. Which is a good thing, right? I mean, I think me losing that money at a young age, day trading. So it was a $40,000 portfolio that I inherited from my father, and grew it to a couple $1 million very quickly. It was the best thing that happened to me retrospectively. One of the best things that happened to me, because you can't talk sense into a 19-year-old male full of testosterone anyway. Give him $2 million, see how far you get, right? Self-made. Like, you can't tell anything to him.
That's a fact.
Right? So like, that is the piece that I couldn't be told anything. I was the smartest guy in the room, and you're setting yourself up for failure. What could have happened what if I kept on running it, whatever, and having kids and whatever, and I blew it up at 30 or 40 when I had actual real responsibility. So I think that's a piece of it. But that's number one. And number two, I didn't have a safety net. So my mom would give me the shirt off her back, but that's all she could do. So that combined with okay, you did this. Yeah. There ain't no PPP, ain't no relief, fucking figure it out, kid, or suck it up and go home. That is probably why I'm here today, because it built that muscle of confidence, fuck, well, now this happened, okay, you broke your phone, whatever.
Yeah.
It ain't as bad as that.
Exactly.
Right? And I got through that, so now you gotta go through. So just, I think if you think about it, and everyone, even your podcast, and your listeners, like, you think about, there's definitely something happened in your life that's the worst thing ever, but you're fucking still here. You know what I'm saying? But we forget about the worst thing.
We forget about that.
And then you get complacent. Yeah. Right.
I don't remember who I was talking to the other day. I think I was at my day job, and I was with the customer, and I was feeling a little bit down. As a normal human being, you're exhausted. I work so hard. Sometimes you have your down days, your good days, your bad days. And I remember the customer telling me, like, "Hey man, you're living. Life is good.
Yeah, get your health."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your health, man. That's prime. I want to ask you, as someone who has so much success in your life so far, how do you measure success? How does Jeremy Delk measure success?
I think it's it's changed over the years, right? And probably fundamentally after kids, and I went through a really bad divorce, and now a new wife that I'm so lucky to have. It's really changed to kind of really put into perspective of what's important, right? And I go back to, like, you're buying your stuff, right? Like, we look at some cars, like, they have a sentimental value to them, but they don't mean anything. They're cool, and they're fun, but that's not what it's about, right? It really is about. I measure things in experiences, right? Like, whether that's, we're going to the lake next weekend with the kids down in Georgia, and like, that's gonna be cool, and like, just building sandcastles on the water, and like going out and tubing and that kind of stuff. That's what I measure success at. And they're being able to have flexibility to drop them off at camp and not answer to some cunt that fucking tells me I gotta be in a board meeting, right? I don't have to be anywhere, right?
Exactly.
I can choose,
You're
right?
your boss.
And then that power of being able to have freedom and have experiences like that to me is a success.
Being your own boss, what's the best thing about being your own boss? I guess, the cliches answer, you get to, pick, what you want to do, but I guess, like, who's somebody who, is their own boss? What's the best part about it that sticks out to you?
I think there's more worst parts than best parts.
That's not known, though. A lot of people don't know that.
No, it's lonely sometimes, right? I mean, because sometimes even, like, you got to put on a good face. I've had hundreds of employees and different things. Like, sometimes you don't have all the answers, but you got to seem like you do,
because everybody expects you.
You're that leader, right? That's your obligation. Like, you can't be weak, right? You got to, even through the face of adversity and fear, like, you got to overcome that. Not for yourself, for your team. Otherwise, you don't have one. But I think the best is that flexibility, and I like to problem solve, right? Like, to me, the money is a scoreboard, but I like that's why I do, like, the coaching stuff, right? Like, I love dealing with hearing these people's crazy problems that are fun for me to fix.
Solve, kind of. I got you. Authenticity. We talked a little bit about this off camera. Share with my audience on how important it is to be authentic, your true self. A lot of people struggle with that because, like we said a little bit earlier in the episode, we care a little bit about what the other person might think of us. You're a prime example of being authentic. You're yourself. You talked about it, and how you react. I guess, what's your message to those people who struggle with being authentic with themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just give yourself a break, right? I mean, it's fucking hard. It's hard in general. But it's hard to be two people, right? Like, how do you keep it together, right? I mean, there's so many of these fucking influencers and people on social, which I hate. Like, I'm a spaz. Like, I'm on social media only because I have to be. I can't fucking post anything myself. Like, someone has to do it for me. But I hate the idea of social media because, especially young and impressionable people, they look at this fucking person who's probably miserable as fuck, and that's what they want to be. Meanwhile, that person is, like, hating their life, but they're putting on this persona. Dude, that's hard. Imagine, like, being on all the time. And I've seen it, right? Like, you go through and, like, influencers, or you go through and you're like, if you don't catch them before, they're like miserable, sad, and oh my God, everything's great. Like, fuck, motherfucker, I just saw you. Like, I mean, like, that's got to be a hard way to go, as opposed to, like, just like, yo, this is who I am. I'm being authentic and being real. It's just easier, right? It's much easier. And you'll find that people tend to trust you and you more. Yeah, because
that's who you are. That's who you are.
Yeah, and some people may not like you. That's fucking okay.
Yeah. Not everybody's
get there quicker. Like like as you get older, I'm 43, man. Your friend group gets smaller, and that's okay. Tons of acquaintances that try to be nice to everybody I meet, but dude, it's okay. You know, not everyone fucking likes you.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be.
But let them make that choice. You shouldn't be judgy, and don't. Oh, this person's cool. Like, just be nice, be cool, and like trust people until they give you a reason not to trust you, right? Yeah, and kind of go through. But if they don't like it, let them. That's their decision.
Why does that matter? That someone else. Why should you care about someone else liking you? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That doesn't really matter. If that's who you are, it's who you are. You can't control that. Yeah,
well, I mean, why they do it? It's usually insecurities. They need that piece to kind of feel valued for themselves, right? Yeah. That's what I said. It starts with loving yourself.
For sure. I want to talk about your book a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Where can people find it? Where is it? I guess how can people find it? I know that it's online, but I guess what's the most? I want to say, how long did it even take you to write that book? First off.
So it's about a year process. So it was a painstaking process. I don't wish on anybody, but it was good. I mean, it was almost therapeutic, kind of getting through. The first part of it was all business and business tips and tricks. And
so the first part of the book.
Yeah. Well, that was the first book that we wrote.
Okay.
And then I threw it away because it just felt disingenuous. Because I didn't share the other side of it, which is like the personal side. Yeah, and I think like that's the reality that people look at only the business piece, but if you don't understand there's a human element beside it. So and that was a hard part for me, is I really I went deep, right? I mean, you really read this book and fucking love me or hate me, but like it's the fucking truth, right? That's who I am. But I wanted to share all those vulnerabilities and all the things, the struggles that I came up, because I think, and that's what I've gotten the best feedback of, is not like cool success stories and funny stories, whatever. It's like the human piece that I think people can relate to. So it's not just an entrepreneur. It's stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad or whatever. Anyone can go through that's trying to figure out what's important to them. So it's about a year and a half process. It's everywhere. I mean, Forbes ranked it like one of the top 3 business books of 2023 this year, which is pretty cool. But it's Barnes & Noble, Amazon. We did an Audible as well, and I read the foreword and some of the intros and dedications. We had a professional narrator actually do the reading, but we did a pretty cool thing. My publisher was saying was David Goggins.
Okay.
So if you ever listen to his book, I stole it from him, so I kicked my ass. I give him credit, but it was really a cool idea that he did at the end of every chapter. It was like almost an interview podcast style.
Oh wow!
So do that. I think that's where most people are liking, because you get my voice. Not that my voice is fucking good, but you get from a narrator's review, he comes out of character and be like, "Well, that was a crazy story. Tell me about hanging with the Sheikh in Dubai," or tell me about these things. And I tell that behind the scenes piece. So people have really been digging that.
I like the idea of putting your voice in having that podcast style, because you do have a very convincing voice and a convincing message. Do you call yourself a motivational speaker?
No, I don't call myself anything.
I was going to say, you definitely, I give it to you. You definitely have some talent there, in motivating people, and I'm sure my audience is going to take a lot in after this episode, man. But I want to ask you, man, what's the best advice that you can give anybody? What's your best advice for, anybody? And this doesn't have to be strictly entrepreneurship. This can be life in general, man. What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think the biggest piece is just get started, right? I mean, just get started in whatever it is. Start the business. Ask the girl out. Call the old friend. Whatever the fuck it is that you've been delaying on. Why are you delaying it, right? Because you talked about the guy that you just saw that said, hey, you're living. That's true, man. You could not be living right now, right? You don't know what's happening. You get hit by health. We're not promised tomorrow. I learned that at a young age, and everyone's experienced that to a degree. But as humans, we forget that stuff because it's easier to forget it than deal with it, right? So just get started and do whatever that thing is. And you don't have to be like me, where I go out and start 20 businesses, and I'm wired a certain way because that's how I have to work, right? Yeah. That's just how I am. But take that first step. File with the SEC or with the Secretary of State. Yeah. Get a website. Do one step. Ask the girl. Reach out to the friend. Talk to them. Whatever it is that you're. Just do it. And then once you make that first step, then take another. I had to go all in, right? That's just me, because I need my back against the wall to feel it, right? I'm a sicko. That's why I said don't be an entrepreneur. But I need that pressure for me to perform. But you don't have to be that way. Just take that first step.
I love that advice, man. That's great advice. Taking the first step. A lot of people scared to do that. Putting their feet in the water, they're scared to do it because there's. I don't know if it's they're afraid of what other people think. It might be a mix of other things as well. But I love that advice, man. Just do it, like Nike. Just do it. I want to ask you, Lex Exotics. What's next for Lex Exotics, and what do you have planned? I know you talked about the 4th of July event, but let's talk big picture. What's next for Lex Exotics?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, sadly I'm probably over Lex Exotics now. Like, 3 months after.
He's moved on.
3 months after the launch. But look, I think you just keep on kind of stoking the flame, right? And that's the cool part. I don't know where it's going to go. And that's okay. That's okay. I wrote a book about what's without a plan. So how do I know, right? I mean, so far people have liked it. We had kids in here. We had a watch party for Monaco Formula One, and my son was here with another member's kid. We're up there watching races, had bagels and stuff, and they're out here just hanging out, playing. So that's cool to me, right? So I think we'll see what happens, man. I think my buddy John, he's crazy. He's such a great employer. He's bringing private equity into Lexington. Got I think $4 or $5 billion under management right now, and just absolutely killing it. So the winner of the car show, he's got Ludacris coming in.
Yeah.
So we got Luda coming to come through. Try and get him over here at the car club too. But yeah, I think that's just see what happens, right? We're gonna try to do some night events with cars and coffee, and who knows, man? You never know what'll happen.
What's next, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk. I love your response about without a plan, because for me, it's man, I always get this question, and then someone actually asked me this question. I was with a friend at lunch, and he was like, "Man, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?" And I'm thinking in my head, I actually hate that question because I don't know what's going to be 5 years from now. I'm you're living evidence that you're not really thinking so far in the future. You don't really have the plan. You're more you're knocking it out, one at a time.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I mean, look, I think it is important, and I even talk about this in the intro of the book. Without a plan isn't an endorsement to go live lollipops and gumdrops. It's all going to be okay. Think fucking positive thoughts and vision boards. That's not what I'm saying. I'm more saying back into the getting it started thing. I know where I want to go to a degree. Yeah. But it's just out there on the horizon. Yeah. No fucking clue I'm going to get there. And I think the biggest piece, the second biggest piece, besides people being scared on having this issue of what happens if I fail. Yep. The second piece is they just go through and have this paralysis by analysis, and they just plan, and then they don't get started because they're still planning. That's A, sometimes you never get started, and B, you're planning on something you don't have any you get poor information, because when you get 6 months down the road, if you got a plan to go left when you should zig instead of zag, you're mentally programmed to I need to stick to the plan, when you may not be, because you have better information at the time. So that's the idea without a plan. Hey, I want to, have these things. I'm always I was with someone the other day, and they're like, "Man, you're 43, bro. It's got to feel good to have made it." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking to? I haven't made shit that." But because I generally don't feel that way. I don't feel like I've done anything, right? I mean, I've done some stuff, right, in 500 and whatever, but I don't feel, and positively, I think I never will. Where does that come from? I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know. I could go down to another episode with you on psychobabble bullshit and analysis, but I think a big part of it is just loving the journey more than the destination. Right? Yeah. So I think that's why, and that's why I talked about that early part of the interview. I use up all of the excitement, creativity, that when I get the thing, it's like an afterthought. It's I don't care. I've already. The feeling that most people have when they get it, I've used up before I got it.
Your journey, you love the journey on its way. You're not focused on what's at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. You're loving the journey, man. It's been a pleasure, man, having you on, man, getting to pick your brain.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Of course,
man. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Delk. Make sure you go check out Lex Exotics. 4th of July, they got something real big coming, so you make sure you go check that out on his website below. Just tag that. You can just hit that link below. I'll put all his information in the description for you guys. Other than that, give us a like, give us a subscribe as well. It's like I said, it's been a pleasure, Jeremy, having you on. And man, this is our last episode for the season, so you're closing it out with a bang, man.
Sweet.
So honored to have you on. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for season 3. We got lots of great people like Jeremy Delk coming on. So.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Hey, man.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks.
Episodes and exclusive content, subscribe to What's Next with Rio.